Thank you so much. So, hi guys. Firstly, I want to thank Katja for opening her home, her studio, her jungle loft for us to be here tonight. Your friendship, your support is like one of the reasons Anamnesis is happening. So, thank you. And secondly, I want to thank all of you guys for being here tonight, taking an interest. You know, the support and the contributions, the donations, the posting of the Indiegogo campaign online on social media is like the reason that we've been so successful so far. And hopefully it's going to keep going. We have 27 more days. Yay! And also I want to thank all my friends and my own community for guidance. Every step of this way, someone has been involved. Like, this is not a project that has happened by me alone. So I want to thank all my close friends and my family for like showing up. It takes a lot. So there's obviously a lot of people here that I know. There's a lot that I don't know. My name is Naz Azodi. I'm a product and a textile designer. I'm also the creator of Anamnesis. So the event tonight was really to kind of give an outlook of the premise of Anamnesis, but also I thought it was a good platform to talk about, you know, the very beginnings and the origins of the project, especially things that have kind of fallen out from our presentation and our videos and all the things that you've been seeing online, if you have seen anything at all. So I thought it was good to kind of talk about those things because they're very personal to me and they're very like attached to me in a very like strong, intense way. So Anamnesis, for those who don't know, is a project in the beginning about memories and weaving and how those two interrelate and correlate to each other. And obviously also about the women who do these weavings in Iran and how and if they use their memories or stories or their histories for their work, if they put it into their work, that the crafts that they put out into this world. And also about the fact that the disregard for these women in Iran is one of the main reasons why this tradition is kind of fading and like kind of fading out of existence, which is very, very sad. Because, you know, if you don't know anything about Iran or anything about Persia in general, like everyone knows the Persian carpet. And it's one of the, you know, it's a luxurious item that everyone kind of knows about, and it's very sad that it's kind of fading out of existence. So, you know, people usually ask me, oh, like why memories and weaving? How did you kind of arrive at this point, and how did you put these two together? And the beginnings of that are very, I have to talk a tiny bit about myself because it's very personal to me. You know, I'm an expat, I'm an immigrant. I've lived here since I was 11, so that's 27 years. Don't do the math. And for me, this idea of living with memories, soothing myself with my memories, this idea of nostalgia has been a really big part of my life. Up till very recently, into my early 30s, that's basically how I lived with the idea of Iran. I would spend, you know, 3 to 4 months out of the year in Iran till 15 years ago before I moved to New York. And the in-between time, which is what I called it, which was when I lived in the US, was like my throwaway time. I was just kind of like, okay, this is the time that I don't really care about. I would just kind of like live in my fantasies and memories and waiting to get back to Iran and like have a good time and have a ball. And you know, you get older, you grow up, you stop being a walking wound, and you realize that that's no way to live. And it's all about being present and enjoying your life. And for me, the dichotomy of the fact that I have to let go of a very big part of me. You know, my memories make me you, Your memories make you who you are. And the fact that I had to kind of let that go to be present and be happy was very kind of obtuse and confusing for a very long time. But you know, it is what it is, life it is, it is what it is. And how that relates to weaving is that I'm a veteran of the textile world. 15 years I've worked in product and textiles, print and pattern, in apparel, in the home industry, and that for me over the years became very cumbersome because, you know, I worked for very big brands that were all about quantity as opposed to quality. And, you know, very bottom line thinking, mass produced products that you're just like designing, putting things out into the world. And there's a very big disconnect with the craftspeople and the artisans who are making these things that, you know, we use in our everyday lives. And just even for me, I was part of the problem because, like, you know, I would talk to factories. I never like thought that, okay, there's this like basket being made in China, who's like making it? I was just like, what's the lowest price I can get, you know? Or like, there's this like block printed, hand printed fabric from India. Like, you never think about like the person who's actually making that object or that pattern or that textile. So over the years, it just became apparent that I had to better align my ethics and my morals as a consumer and as a maker with my daily practice as a designer. And you know, America is very much a consumer-driven, it's consumerism at its best and worst. And consumerism doesn't care about who the person is behind those products. And so that's why I left the design world. That's basically, I found myself at a place where I was like, okay, that's it. I can't do this any longer. Like, I don't want to put more crap into this world. Like, I need to be attached to the things that are around me and the thing that I'm doing. And that's when I went to Iran this last winter. And at that time, I was kind of like learning more about rug weaving in Iran, the history of it, the mythology of it, which is very beautiful, you know, unbeknownst to us, unbeknownst to most people. All the designs and the motifs that we see in these pieces, whether tribal or otherwise, in the whole world actually, not just in Iran, because the tribal weavings, the origins of all of them all over the world are very much the same, which has to do with creation. And, you know, I learned that there's stories that are being told through these pieces. So I started wondering, I was like, okay, well, you know, there's, you know, thankfully, luckily, I'm from a place where this is a very important tradition in my country, and how can I learn more about it? And, you know, in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm gonna design something, I'm gonna go to Iran, there's these like artisans there that are world renowned and they're gonna make my pieces. But the idea was that, okay, this is basically what I was doing before. Like, I don't want to do work for hire. Like, I needed to mean something. I want to do something better with my time and my life. And then the thesis of the project, which is this like memory and weaving, came to me, which is, you know, how do these women use their life as inspiration? Are they able to weave stories and memories that they want to let go? Once you have this tangible object that's outside of yourself and you're looking at it, am I able to let it go, let go of those thoughts and memories and live more fully in the now? So when I went to Iran, it was very much an exploration of that idea. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do with it, and I spent basically several months, as some of these videos will show, talking, meeting, traveling over Iran, meeting tribal nomadic women weavers. Women, because this is a craft that's done mostly by women, not only in Iran but around the world. And it was very humbling, because not only was I sharing stories of myself with these women, but they were in turn sharing their stories with me. So, and how that related to their craft was that I would ask them, for example, like, when did you learn to weave? What age were you? Who taught you? Oh, my mom taught me. And then stories of their mother would come around. What was the first piece of weaving that you had? Oh, it was for your dowry that you wove it. What happened to that piece? Oh, you sold it. What happened to your husband? Like, so it was like the conversations would get very raw and very real very quickly. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Like, I was so honored to be allowed into those spaces and to be received so beautifully and so fully and amazingly. Like, it was just very touching, and it left an everlasting mark on me, and which is something that is never gonna change. And along that journey, what I learned was that these women are paid next to nothing, like embarrassingly low, like not at all a living wage. The newer generations, because there's no money in it, are not learning how to weave. So basically, 10, 15 years ago, if you went to Iran and you went within these tribal communities, or even if they were nomadic, in the winter times, their whole system of weaving, their looms were always in play. And now, when I was there, it was like I had to beat doors down to find people that were still kind of operating in that aspect of not weaving for companies or not weaving for other people outside of their own community, that were weaving for themselves. That was very, very hard to find. So it's in only a short span of time, 10 to 15 years, it's something that's really that has disappeared. And that's when I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with this project, but it's very clear my path is that I want to speak and get the story out about these women, because the paradox of the lives of these women is also very crazy. They live and work in very humble surroundings, on very intricate pieces that take sometimes from months to a year to complete. They're paid nothing. And then where these pieces end up, in luxurious homes in Iran or around the world, the juxtaposition of those two is just very disgusting, honestly. It's just, if there was regard for them, if they were paid fairly, if they could live off the wage that they were being paid, I wouldn't mind it so much. But the fact that they're not, and nobody really knows the stories of them, or how they live, or even care, just was very bothersome to me. So I knew that my path was that, okay, what I have to do is to make sure that these women are heard, they're seen, and we can get the story out. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I use the word snowballed because it really kind of just took off, because it was okay, this is what I'm doing. And then everything just kind of fell into place with the project. And so the project as it stands now, that was my prologue, a very long prologue. The project as it stands now is that we're doing a collaboration with 5 tribal women weavers in Iran. We're providing a space, the time, they're being paid fair wages for them to, we're asking them to weave a story that they've shared with me, or a memory that they shared with me that's very significant to them. And the outcome and the aim of this phase of the project is to really reestablish the women as creators, because that's what they are. They're artists, they're doing something beautiful for the Iranian culture. And along with that is to kind of give them the self-confidence. We're conducting a 2 to 3 week workshop to give them the self-confidence and the validation that to work on something that means something to them. A lot of them right now work for rug companies. The companies come to them, they give them the materials, they give them the looms, the designs, they just sit there, their hands producing a product. So they're not what they used to be. The mythology and lore of these pieces, the tradition of storytelling through this craft has been stripped away, along with the agency of these women. So what we're trying to establish with this phase, it's not tangible. And we are producing a short video and a book, and then that's what basically the funding is for, to kind of try to capture this thing that's kind of you can't touch and you can't really see, which is like the feeling of, you know, these people mattering, like understanding that what they do is important. Like I would go to the homes and they were just so like confused. They were like, why? You want to know what I'm doing? Like, why do you care? Like, I just weave. Like, what's so important about that? And it's like, dude, it's important. Like everywhere in the world, people talk about Persian carpets, and you guys are the people who make them. Like, of course it's important. It's very deeply rooted in the Persian culture, and so the idea is to make them understand their importance, really. And another important kind of, like significant, I should say, for me, and why this project kind of matters, even like it kind of squeezes my heart a little bit, is every one of the women that I met, they were very much lionesses. So, you know, these women, they get married very young to very old guys. The old guys either get sick or pass away, so they become the head of the household, usually supporting something between 4 to 7 people through their craft. And you know, in a country where it's all about the patriarchy, to have like a woman that's like a lioness and is like taking care of business, putting their kids through college or school, or like raising women that are knowledgeable and like teaching a craft that's dying to their community is important. So, and why that matters to me is because I am for sure a product of a lioness. That's how I was taught. I was taught by a woman that like, she just took care of business. I'm not gonna go into details, but like I want more of those women out there that are, they know their worth and they're knowledgeable and they know how to get things done. So, and you know, all of that aside, the other important thing that we're trying to establish with this project is that we want to form a collective of women in Iran, like a women's cooperative for fair trade rugs. There's a lot of women cooperatives in Iran already, whether it's, you know, Iran has a rich tradition of crafts. So there's a lot of that. However, a fair trade does not exist in Iran. Like Iran is about like haggling and getting the lowest price you can get, something for nothing. So this would be one of the first cooperatives or collectives of its kind. And we're hoping that the support for this project will kind of show the people in Iran, because their works would be geared towards the Iranian market due to sanctions and all the other jazz that's been happening in Iran by America. And you know, if this project is successful, it would show, and I already know this, like the support and kind of like the outcry of like, oh my God, this is so timely, this is so this, like, it shows that people want to spend their money on things that, you know, matter. People want to support humans. Like, we're all human. People are amazing. People are loving. People are caring. They want to like care for their fellow humans and make sure they have a living wage. They have, they can provide for their family, put a roof over their head, provide them food. Like, those are basic things that everyone should have in their life. And I feel like, you know, if something costs a little bit more, but there's a face, a heart, a hands, eyes behind it, and you know the person that's making the product that you're putting in your home, you're willing to pay just a little bit more for that product for the support of these women. And lastly, I just want to kind of a tad touch on this subject, because it was like a positive roadblock, I should say, and I say positive because it made me realize how much I care about this project that I'm working on and I kind of came up with. I already know when starting this project that because of the sanctions, because of OFAC, because of all the things and pressures that Iran is under right now, we were going to have a hard time bringing some of these pieces for the shows that we want to have in New York. So we had talked to lawyers. I knew that that was on my radar. And then 2 to 3 days before we went live with our campaign on Indiegogo, I realized that, actually it's illegal for me to raise any funds for a project taking shape in Iran, whether artistic or otherwise, it doesn't matter. And I fell apart for a couple of days because the whole heart of this project and the fundraising especially originally was about raising funding for the women, raising funding for the materials, for every part of the aspect of this project that was taking place in Iran. And all of a sudden I was told that I'm not allowed to do that just because it takes place in Iran. And on all the funding platforms, that was the case. And I was just like, okay, I just spent 8 months, 10 months of my life working on this, and how am I gonna make this happen? And I haven't worked in a year. I've been using my savings, my life savings, I should put out there, to make this happen. And I realized that, I believe in this so much that I will fund the Iran portion of this again out of my own pocket. And that's the positive roadblock. I realized that this matters to me so much that I'm willing to do that. So really the fundraising is for us to help bring the story and the nucleus of this project into another space, where we have a show in Tehran, and all of what's going to happen in New York is also going to happen in Tehran, but I want it to happen in New York. I want it to happen in other cities. I want to take it on a tour to make sure that a lot of ears and eyes see and hear not only the women, but just kind of the conditions and the special quality of something that most people are not going to have the ability or the means to see. So yeah, the fundraising is only for the New York portion, but I am funding everything else out of my own pocket. And the New York portion is to really make sure that we kind of hit this out of the ballpark and we bring something very unique and never done before, and make sure that not only Iranians, but because not even Iranians really know. Nobody really goes into these spaces. It's very few people, So far we've had amazing support. It's been a magical, unbelievable week and a half. In a week and a half we raised $13,000. And I'm a little scary because every day that I did especially the first 2 days was just I couldn't believe what was happening. I was like, this is not real. This is not real. I just walked around, people were like, can you believe this? I was like, no, I can't believe this. So it just shows me that people are caring, man. Everyone cares. And it doesn't matter that it's in Iran or anywhere. I could be doing this project literally in any part of the world, and if I was telling the same story, people would freaking support it in the same way. I completely believe that with all of my heart. But we have a long way to go. We still have to make another $20,000. So any contribution, if it's $5, $10, $15, any little bit helps. Even if you can contribute, you can share our campaign with your friends and your network. That goes a long way, because obviously I have my own network, but that only gets me so far. I really need people to be my champions, and kind of, if they believe in this project, to put it out there. And we have some business cards over here with QR scan codes. You can just go to your camera as if you're taking a picture. The website just shows up. It takes you right to our funding page. You can have the link that way to share with your friends. And that's about it.